Hashtag I'm proud to be an Igorot challenge. Learning modules cause the hashtag I'm proud to be an Igorot to trend on social media, with the Igorots sharing their photos and experiences. The Department of Education DepEd Cordillera urged the immediate correction of some self-learning modules that malign, discriminate and wrongly depict Igorots. Photos of some modules went viral on social media mentioning the Igorots collective name of indigenous peoples of the Cordillera. One of the questions asked in the module is what would they do if they see Igorots being belittled because of their appearance. Many Cordillerans and IP advocates believed the question was uncalled for and insensitive. DepEd Cordillera Regional Director Estela Carino said this must be addressed at once, adding that a wrong concept that is repeated many times will soon be perceived as the truth. This may be accepted as a truth, that is why there is a need to respond to it right away, she said, adding that those responsible should correct this sooner. As an Igorot herself, Carino urgently called on the attention of the regions and school division offices using those modules to make the necessary and urgent changes. DepEd CAR Regional Director Estela Carino also calls on the public to report incorrect notions or information about Igorots and give the corrections, including faulty modules circulating on social media over the past days that malign, discriminate, and wrongly depict the Igorots. When a wrong concept keeps repeated, this might be accepted as the truth, that is why we need to respond to it right away and for those responsible to correct it immediately, Carino said during DepEd CAR's recent convocation. She further calls on all education stakeholders to help in creating awareness on indigenous peoples and to be part of the system that correct these learning materials by not just bashing or ignoring it, but by calling the attention of the Basic Education Department through its proper channels. On February 6, 2021, the Department of Education corrected learning modules that discriminate against the Igorots, Mountain Province Representative Maximo Dalog said. In a statement, Dalog said he received a letter from the DepEd Cordillera Administrative Region, explaining that one of the modules in question was printed by a school from another region, and the copies were immediately retrieved when the agency's attention was called. Dalog shared that DepEd CAR Director Estela Carino said the other regional office urgently rectified the matter by modifying the content. She did not identify the source but said an apology was made to CAR. In deeply expressing its sincerest apologies for making use of the Igorot tribe as example in the learning materials, the source region admitted that they were not able to look into the social contents of the materials during the quality assurance process, Dalog said, recalling the letter from Carino. The DepEd CAR official earlier called the attention of other regions and schools division offices using such modules to make the changes. Dalog wrote to Education Secretary Leonor Briones urging the agency to hold accountable those behind books and learning modules, apparently designed and published to malign and discriminate our people for being Igorots. He identified one module that portrayed the Igorots as having dark, curly hair. We disagree on such account because in reality, a person with curly hair does not truly represent the actual appearance of an Igorot, the lawmaker said. This was from a book published by St. Matthew's Publishing Corporation in 2001. In 2008, the publisher apologized for offending the Igorots and assured that two books with the same content were no longer in circulation and are out of print. Yet, we are in 2021, another module circulating on Facebook, students were asked to analyze whether the given hypothetical scenarios were right or wrong. One of the items states, translation, I will not play with my Igorot classmate because his attire is different. Translation, you saw your classmate teasing an Igorot child because of his looks. Another item read, asking students to indicate the proper response. These modules cause the hashtag, proud to be Igorot, to trend on social media, with the Igorots sharing their photos and experiences. Since face-to-face classes are prohibited due to the coronavirus pandemic, the Department of Education has been implementing blended learning using mainly self-learning modules as well as radio, television, and online-based education. Instead of being enraged by the incident, netizens who have Igorot roots shared their photos wearing traditional Cordilleran attires and attending rituals in the region while posting with the hashtag I'm proud to be an Igorot challenge. When the Philippine ambassador to the United Nations, Carlos P. Romulo, wrote in his book, Mother America, A Living Story of Democracy, that Igorots were not Filipinos, he was referring to the tribes of the Old Mountain Province. The Old Mountain Province was composed of Bontoc, Ifugao, Benguet, Apayao, and Kalinga. School textbooks referred to inhabitants of the Old Mountain Province as Igorots. That was the ascription of a once venerable Filipino for the tribal people of the Cordilleras in a book that up to now remains not corrected. In an attempt to rectify the statement of the late Minister Carlos Romulo against the Igorot people, Congressman Maximo Dalog wrote a letter to the National Historical Commission of the Philippines (NHCP), requesting for the correction of the erroneous historical account stating that Igorots are not Filipinos. The reviled statement is contained in page 59 of the book. Specifically, it states, "The fact remains that the Igorot is not Filipino and we are not related." This writing prompted late attorney Alfredo Lamy N., who was then the congressman of the 1st District of the Old Mountain Province, to deliver a privileged speech at the House of Representatives garbed in G-strings. He denounced Minister Romulo for the inaccurate and false account in the Philippine history. Igorot people and students from the Cordillera region protested and led to the burning of the said books of the late minister. Ever since, nothing was done to rectify the erroneous account. Not even the protests of the Igorot people led to the correction of the misnomer. Dalog further stressed the late minister was a distinguished and well-respected soldier, statesman, diplomat, journalist and author. He has secured a well-deserved exalted place in the pantheon of Philippine statesmen, while his views on the Igorots earlier cited can be very misleading. Dalog also requested the commission to make the necessary rectification in the historical accounts of the late Romulo by making an official declaration that Igorots are Filipinos, for they have descended from the same race from which the entire Filipino people descended from. He requested that the erroneous statements in the book must be ordered deleted and or that necessary measures to reflect the correction of the erroneous accounts be put in place. It was learned the NHCP will act on the matter during the monthly meeting scheduled this month. Here are some Igorot misconceptions that should stop right now. The Igorot people of the Cordilleras are often wrongly depicted. We live in an age of information and the abundance of misinformation about the Igorots is still evident. The term Igorot is an old Tagalog word meaning people from the mountains, and a general term used to include all ethnic tribes from the Cordilleras. The Spaniards adopted this term, but generally used it in a negative way, referring to the savage and backward people in the mountains. The Igorot, people of the Cordilleras, are often awfully misunderstood. Here are some of the most common misconceptions Igorots often encounter. As far as the meaning of the word Igorot itself is concerned, Dr. Trinidad Pardo de Tavera, a famous Tagalog scholar at the turn of the century, said it consists of the root word, galit, which means mountain chain, and the prefix, e, which means people of, or dwellers of, which means people of the mountain. Dr. Panganiban of the Institute of National Language said that 10 years ago, the word root itself is still used in the provinces, which means hill, but it is not common in Manila. In a 1613 Tagalog dictionary, it is spelled guller, that is, golad. In the Konkani language, we find the word ginalot, which means native rice, as opposed to toping, or second crop rice introduced from the lowlands. The word igolot therefore appears to be of perfectly indigenous Filipino origin, and it is in this form that it first appeared in Spanish records. The substitution of r for l in the word did not become popular until the 18th century, when Antonio Mozo, who spelled it igolot himself in his 1763 Noticia Historica Natural, commented, corrupting the letters they are wont to call it Igorot. Here are some of the most common misconceptions Igorots often encounter and need to demystify over and over again. 1. Igorot people are uncivilized. Unfortunately, this caricature of the Igorot by the Spaniards swept the thinking of the mainstream Filipino, from the Spanish occupation through the American occupation of the Philippines at the end of the 19th century and, to a significant extent, up to the present. And even while the Igorot has leapfrogged into the later part of the 20th century to become nurses, doctors, engineers, educators, lawyers, bishops, congressmen, governors, businessmen, Ivy League students as cum laudes, topping professional national examinations in the Philippines, and other high achievements, they are still perceived by many as primitive. Second misconception about Igorots. The Igorots have tails. To this day, people still think that Igorots have tails. The Igorots have long suffered from discrimination directly from their fellow Filipinos, including the claim that they have tails. To this day, the word Igorot alone seems to be a joke or an insult, a word with a negative meaning. Third misconception about Igorots. The Igorots and Atis are one and the same. Cultural appropriation. No offense to our Edda brothers, but the Igorots and Atis are two different ethnic groups. The Igorots are different from them when it comes to basic physical features, cultures and traditions. However, this does not change the fact that no matter what race we are in, we are still brothers and sisters. Please stop discrimination against our Edda brothers and sisters. We are all beautiful in the eyes of God. Let us lift them up and do not add to those who look down on them, because doing so will not do us any better. It has also been difficult to replace the hundreds of years of teaching since the Spanish period promoted by Dep Ed, where the Igorots are represented as Atis. Fourth misconception about Igorots. Igorots wear traditional clothes casually. Tourists spend their vacation in Baguio City without knowing who the Igorots are. They think the Igorots are the only old people wearing traditional clothing, baag or bahag for men and tapis for women, found in the botanical garden. We don't blame them. They want to find the Igorots in Baguio City, but the truth is, the Igorots are just there in front of them, walking along Session Road, sitting in Burnham Park, playing chess in the Igorot garden and eating in restaurants. The fifth misconception. The Igorots are ugly. Igorots are often mistakenly believed by other people to have the salient features of our Edda brothers. Some even go as far as saying that Igorots and Atis are from the same tribe. That Igorots also have curly and kinky hair. There's nothing wrong with being short. There's nothing wrong with being dark-skinned. And there's nothing wrong with having crisp and curly hair. This simply stating the facts here. These are the recognizable features of Atis, not Igorots. There are Igorots who are short. There are Igorots who have dark skins. And there are Igorots who have curly hair. But these are not the salient features, in the same way that the Caucasian race doesn't have almond-shaped eyes as a recognizable feature. Stereotyping is everywhere. Too bad, if those misconceptions lead to discrimination. Thank you for watching. Please share your views and opinions on this topic in the comment box below.